There should be no place on any campus, no place in America for anti-Semitism or threats of violence against Jewish students. There is no place for hate speech or violence of any kind, whether it's anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or discrimination against Arab Americans or Palestinian Americans. It's simply wrong. As president, I will always defend free speech, and I will always be just as strong in standing up for the rule of law.
If you are getting a sense of deja vu, that is because that was live right about this time during this hour yesterday. And we've had 24 hours to try to digest those few little words that he took 9 days to say about the chaos and the hate that have taken over America's college and university campuses. Critics are ripping into him. His delayed reaction and what they say was a weak and politically calculated response. So it was certainly legally written, every word of it. One headline has this explanation: Biden tries threading the needle on campus protests and the Israel-Hamas war. Yesterday on Focus, Senator John Kennedy said he knows exactly why Biden's doing this.
The mayhem you see is an effort to put pressure on President Biden, and it's working. President Biden, with respect, he is old, he is weak, he knows he has to have the Hamas wing of the Democratic Party to be reelected. He's scared, as my dad used to say, he's nervous as a pregnant nun.
Oh, with respect, he said it all. The Trump campaign echoed in writing, Biden refused to outright condemn the pro-Hamas, pro-genocide mobs, and the sad truth is that he needs their votes. And more headlines are taking the president to task today. A political decision, Joe Biden ends his silence. Another, Biden fails the campus protest test. And his fear of taking on the crazy left poses a real threat to his re-election chances. Far-left Senator Bernie Sanders with this dire warning for Biden.
In terms of his campaign, I am thinking back, and other people are making this reference, that this may be Biden's Vietnam. I worry very much that President Biden is putting himself in a position where he has alienated not just young people, but a lot of the Democratic base in terms of his views on Israel and this war.
Tulsi Gabbard, Fox News contributor and former Hawaii Congresswoman. It's so good to have you. I want to tell you she is the author of a brand new book. Let's pop that up. For Love of Country, Leave the Democrat Party Behind. Tell me about leaving Joe Biden behind yesterday, because that was, a lot of people are criticizing it was too little too late.
Yeah, statements like his, waiting 9 days and then having this weak statement that is unbecoming of the President of the United States during a time of crisis is one of those reasons why I left the Democratic Party. He talks about his commitment to uphold the rule of law, his commitment to defend free speech, and yet we are seeing here in his response his failure to do so and his record throughout his administration of not only failing to defend free speech, but actually deciding who gets to speak and who should be censored. So his words are fairly meaningless, and his lack of honesty and directness in speaking the truth that, yes, we defend free speech, that all students should feel safe in their campus, to stand against anti-Semitism, and to call out what is a pro-Hamas, pro-radical Islamist ideology that is taking over these campuses, where they're advocating for genocide against our fellow Americans. That's what's happening, and what he refused to say.
And ironically, they're calling for genocide for him, too. Genocide Joe. I mean, some of the signage has his name on it, which is, I say ironic. I don't often use that word, because you would think he'd have a whole lot to say about this.
You would, and it really makes me wonder how closely he's paying attention to what's really going on here, and recognizing that while this is happening on our college campuses today, the greater threat is one that threatens our fundamental freedom and frankly, civilization, because Hamas as a terrorist organization, like other Islamist groups, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, et cetera, their goal is Islamic rule. It is exacting Sharia law over the world. So the more this ideology continues to spread, as these young students are being susceptible to grabbing hold onto, the more we will see happening, like we're seeing in countries in Europe, where they are implementing Sharia law in civilized, freedom-loving countries in the West.
Wow. Anti-Israel protesters have defaced a statue of one of our first president at the university that bears his name. They draped a Palestinian scarf, a keffiyeh as we're coming to know it, and the flag around his face and neck at the George Washington University campus in D.C. Acts like this one and the protests across the country are showing the organized effort by the far left to radicalize our young people. An NYPD deputy commissioner laid it out this way today.
It's propaganda, it's social media, it's you know, the students are already passionate and upset about an issue, and now you have a person whispering in your ear that, hey, you know, we should take over the building or something like that. It's when young minds are in that state, it's pretty easy to then be influenced by somebody who is a professional at manipulation.
Okay, you have to check this out. The Wall Street Journal's lead editorial today outlines what it calls rules for campus radicals in 2024. It highlights a website that's become a clearinghouse for anarchists, Antifa activists, and other radical leftists, and offers tips and strategies on how to break the law and indoctrinate people. Tulsi, on one of the opening pages on the website, some home time reading for people who want to cause a resistance. Expect resistance to yourself. A crime think field manual and all the steps you can do to fight back. And we're seeing some of that.
We're seeing it before our very eyes. This is not just a grassroots movement that's bubbled up out of nowhere. It's very clearly organized. It's very clearly well funded. And the objectives are very clear. I talked about the influence of this ideological warfare that Islamist terrorist groups are waging here and around the world, and that they have been for hundreds of years. The failure of our leaders to wage that warfare in return with that superior message of what it means to live free in a free society, the foundational principles that are our country. And so we have a situation now where you have people who hate freedom, who hate America, and are trying to destroy us from within, are so far making great progress.
So who are the uber wealthy who can do this sort of human movement? I mean, they literally are telling them what to say. They're putting them into position. They've got people who can come onto these campuses, throw down those tents, take them up when the kids are arrested, so on and so forth.
I think it's well documented at this point that George Soros is one of the primary funders of this. I believe with this specific campus protest that is filled with Hamas apologists, it's to the tune of $10 or $12 million that he's put forward towards this. I have a feeling there will be more where that comes from.
And I know through his venues like actblue.com that we saw on April 15th with the bridges being shut down, Brooklyn Bridge, Golden Gate, coast to coast, there were fingers that were pointed directly to mainly the Soros family, because Alexander, his son, has taken over for George, and he's much more of an activist at this point.
And this again, Harris, this is where leadership is required. To have strong and steady leadership, to speak the truth. You know, President Biden is clearly worried about being labeled an Islamophobe himself, which is why he's not willing to speak the truth. Right. What we need is a president for all Americans who will defend our fundamental freedoms and uphold the rule of law.
Tulsi Gabbard, great to see you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.